Hi, this is Marina from Back to la Tierra. So, which books can help you on your journey of discovering how you want to live your dream? I love to read, and I find that reading offers us so many more possibilities than we would normally maybe have available in our own minds, or that people around us offer. We can be surrounded by very inspiring people, but there's always more out there. And reading is such a wonderful way to open our mind to more possibilities. I want to share with you my top books that have really made a difference in my life and that really have helped me create the life that we're living now. And I still read new books every single day. So this is a ongoing process. We're never finished. There's always more to read. But I want to start with this little pile here that is really my top favorite inspiration books. Well, this is kind of a joke really, but this is the book that I wrote. It's in Dutch, so it won't be accessible for a large group of you. This is really, the title is, if I translate it, really would be, Can You Tell Me the Road to Eudaimonia? And eudaimonia is a term that was coined by Aristotle. I can't go into all the details. Basically, it's a life lived with purpose and joy. And I found the term such a beautiful word to cover everything that we are searching for when we're searching for a life with meaning and that fulfills us, right? And because it's a word that isn't used very regularly, I liked it even more because I think for new times in our life we need new vocabulary. So I wanted to reintroduce the term. So my book consists of 50 essays, columns, about my view on life, and I guess they are personal stories, but they are the personal in the universal, right? So it will be recognizable for everyone. It's still for sale. You can order it online, and depending on where you live, just get in touch with me directly, and we can sort it out. My book. I wrote it in 2017, by the way, which is now 7 years ago already. Wow, long time. And this is another Dutch book by my good friend Petra, and Navigating in the Mist, translating it into English. It hasn't been translated yet. I don't know if she has any aspirations or plans to do so. It's a beautiful book for practical minds who really want to be guided in a practical, intellectual way. So I love the way that she has made the dream so tactile and made how to get there very tactile as well, and making the unknown, so the being unsure about things, making that a space for new ways of living, right? Rather than instead of being afraid of what we don't know. So definitely recommend it. And then I want to continue with this one. If we go a little bit more chronologically, this is, I think, the first book that I read that literally left me speechless. This I read about 20 years ago. I was recommended it by a friend. Not on the label, By Felicity Lawrence, and it's written quite a long time ago. It's definitely not a, well, obviously it's, if I read it 20 years ago, it's obviously not new. I can't find the publishing dates so quickly, but I think it was one of the first books that came out on the food industry, right? And in all the different processed foods, the whole procedure of from growing to finding food in our supermarkets, what happens during that process. and incredibly eye-opening. I think by now most of us will know what's in this book. At the time, she was one of the first ones that actually, rang the panic bell, I guess you should say, in many ways. She is a great journalist, and she really opened my eyes. And after I read it, I said to Paul, we were actually on holidays in La Gomera. I remember it very, very clearly, with our children who were then 3 and 4. And I said to Paul, we have to read this together, and we have to think about what we're going to do, because we have small children. We are now teaching them everything they're going to be needing and using for the rest of their life. And food is such an important component in that. And we were already pretty conscious about what we were eating, but this really opened our eyes to the importance of growing your own food and being in control of what you put in your mouth. So, highly recommended. Not on the Label by Felicity Lawrence. And then I think what I would like to discuss, let me see. I think this one. The Reluctant Buddhist by Woolard. I think in the process that we go into when we're deciding, making important choices in life, the spiritual aspect is a very important part. At least it is for me. And I think you can't make these choices really on a deeper level unless you are more conscious of your own spiritual awareness, right? This book has really helped me to shine a light on Buddhism, not as a dogmatic practice, but as a way of contributing to a complete life, and how a daily practice can be so supporting in our everyday life, especially when we are going through big changes. It's beautifully written. It's very inspiring, and it's actually literally about Nichiren Buddhism, but I don't think it really matters. I don't practice a specific type of Buddhism. I'm not a Buddhist as such, but I find that a lot of the wisdom in Buddhism has given me a lot and has supported me during my life, and has helped me to understand the world and myself. Highly recommended. The Reluctant Buddhist by Woolard. And then from there, going to a more practical approach. This book I read in 2021, November 2021, Redefining Rich by Shannon Hayes. She's a new writer. She should be a lot more famous than she is at the moment. I think she's fantastic. So inspiring, so well put together. So this book is about discovering a new way of living that makes sense to you on a level of meaning and purpose. But besides that, also discovering a way of making it work financially, and making it work in a way that you can support yourself and your family, and looking at being rich as in a different way. So redefining the term rich. So redefining what are you aiming for? Are you aiming for a lot of money? And if you're aiming for a lot of money, what are you hoping to do with that money? What are you hoping that money is going to do for you, buy you, or and in her case, she describes that although she started in corporate life, she realized that if her and her husband would both continue living this corporate life, it's in fact a very expensive life to live, because of all the things that they had to do to be able to maintain this corporate life. So live in the city, which means more expensive rents, have your daily commuting, all the costs that go into that, She even goes into like all the wardrobe that she needs to buy to be able to be presentable in her office outfits. The dinners that you have to buy because you don't have time to cook. All these things that go into living busy lives, and although you're earning a good salary, it then turns out that you're spending so much money on maintaining that life. So in Redefining Rich, she describes her life on the ranch that she runs with her husband and her parents and her children, and how they, as a family, make it work. And it's hard work, and it never stops. But she puts together a very practical guide also in, how do you see yourself in this different life, and how do you think it's going to, what different choices are you going to make, and what different expectations are you going to have whilst you're living this life. Very valuable, and it really helps, especially if you're making a move together with your partner. Very important to sit down together, go through her questionnaire, just to figure out if you're on the same page. And if you're not, that doesn't have to be a problem. But finding that out before you actually start, and agreeing on the steps that you're going to be making. Highly recommended. Redefining Rich by Shannon Hayes. She's also on Instagram, and you can find her. Google her. Do your thing. Figure it out. And then this book, as you can tell by all the little sticky thingies, I have read back to front, upside down, inside out. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And especially when I was writing my own book, in this creative process, we really need some support sometimes from the divine, or from whatever you want to call it, just to make sure you hold on to that trust and that confidence and that creative vibe that you need to make something, to create something out of nothing, right? Which is creating a book, which is making a painting, which is making a garden, whatever it is that you're making. It's sometimes hard to hold on to the feeling. And this book has really helped me when I felt I was maybe, on a day like I thought, maybe I shouldn't bother with this whole book because it's so much work, and who's going to read it, and who cares? And when you go through that, I think we all recognize that kind of thing going on. And then I would just pick up this book at random, because they're all individual stories, and just read one of them, and something would start to tingle in my body, and I think, yes, I need to do this. I really need to do this. And it would just get me straight back into the vibe. So this book is a life book, I think, for everybody who's creative. And that's not only people who paint, and that's not only people who write, that's you, everybody around on the world. Because creating a life for yourself, that is the most creative thing that we can do. And we need to be creative for that, we need to find a new meaning for creativity. Because what's more important than creating your own life, being the artist of your own life, So let Elizabeth Gilbert help you on that one. Big Magic. And then, this will be maybe a little bit later in the stage, but this has really contributed to how I look at environmentalism, how I look at the why of what we're doing. So this is Paul Kingsnorth, Confessions of a Recovering Environmentalist. It's quite a recent book. It came out in 2021. I read it in December of 2021. And what it has brought me is I was feeling that I was looking at environmentalism and the whole activism part. My feelings around that have really changed. I want to get away from the fear. I want to get away from the panic and the problem focus that we're on, and even the solutions are based on fear. And I felt really uncomfortable with that, and I didn't know really what to do with it and how to find a new way of looking at it. And Paul Kingsnorth has really, in his book, really guided me to look at things in a different way. And to support, actually, sorry, I'm just going to have a little sip. To support my intuition that things, we need to look at this with different eyes. We need to stop panicking. And I know, there might be people now watching this saying, what do you mean stop panicking? We're in shit and all this thing. Yeah. I think we all know the facts, but I think the facts are, if they aren't helping us to empower ourselves and to do good things, they are not supporting us. So I think it's important to decide how we want to look at the big problem. And the way that Paul Kingsnorth is looking at environmentalism as a way of bringing it back to your own environment, your own piece of earth where you're living, your own family, your own friends. And that is not a selfish thing, because I know when I say this, I think it may come across as, oh yeah, just take care of yourself only. But if we all take care of ourselves and we all take care of our own piece of land and our family and our friends, this is an incredibly powerful thing. We can't expect to be taken care of from the people that are making the plans and the rules and the decisions, because they are not in the benefit of us all, right? So it's too deep to go into it exactly what he's saying, because I can't summarize it now quickly, but I would highly recommend that you get this book and read it. Just do it. And well, this is actually maybe a little bit in the line of that in some ways, but also not. It's a James Scott, Against the Grain. I haven't completely finished it. It's a book that I just read bits out of, and James Scott is such a fantastic, well, yes, I love him. I think he's such a good writer. He's very funny. He has such a unconventional way of looking at history, of inspiring us about questioning what we think we know about history, and questioning if the decisions that we're making nowadays in our life and what we think has shaped our history. Imagine that wasn't completely true. What changes in our minds about our own decisions and our expectations for the future. So Against the Grain is based on the meaning behind creating states, right? When were states created? How did it happen? And why did it happen? Yeah, very interesting book. Very interesting. And it's one of those books that you can never, you're never finished. It's such a profound. And then, yeah, I guess there's so many more books, and I feel now maybe I missed a few, but this is a very, very nice, fun book as well. Business for Bohemians by Tom Hodgkinson. Incredibly funny. And this has really also helped me to, we are, of course, we have a beautiful project here, and I think we are pretty naive in some ways and idealistic in the way that we run this project sometimes, but at the same time, to make it continue to exist, we need to have a business mind as well. And I think I do understand the business mind, but I sometimes find it difficult to implement. And I don't feel that the typical way of doing business or negotiating is aligned with how I look at life and how I want to communicate with people. And this has really given me a different fun look on that. Like, there's many ways of doing, being in business and doing things, and maybe you have to find your own way. And really, any way works as long as you stick to it. Now, that is something that I keep on reminding myself. I'm not very good at being consistent in things, and that's also, I think, a problem that maybe more creative people have. And this has helped me laugh at myself about that and recognize so many things. I would really recommend it if this resonates with you. So this was my collection of my beautiful books, and I just love every single one of them and so many more. If you enjoyed watching this, let me know, and do your like and your thing and everything, because then I will know if this is worth creating more of. And maybe you have some requests that you would like me to discuss. If you do, please put them in, and then I can